There comes a moment in every life when a quiet question rises from within. Am I living as someone valuable, or am I merely being available? It is a question that does not shout, yet it shakes the soul. For too long, many of us have mistaken constant presence for importance. We have answered every call, carried every burden, dimmed our light to make others comfortable, and called it kindness. But there is a difference, oh, there is a powerful difference, between being needed and being respected, between being accessible and being honored. Tonight, I invite you to consider a shift so subtle, yet so life-altering, that it can change the way the world sees you, and more importantly, the way you see yourself. Because when you decide to be valuable, instead of merely available, you stop chasing approval and start commanding respect. And that, my friends, is where transformation begins. There is a sacred power in the word no. It is small, just 2 letters, yet it carries the strength of 1,000 unspoken truths. Many of us were taught to believe that saying no is selfish, that turning down requests makes us unkind, that setting limits makes us difficult. So we learned to bend. We learned to stretch ourselves thin. We learned to smile when we were tired, to agree when we were overwhelmed, to show up even when our spirit was begging for rest. And somewhere in that endless availability, we began to lose pieces of ourselves. But hear this clearly. Every time you say yes to something that drains you, you are quietly saying no to yourself, no to your peace, no to your growth, no to your dreams. Boundaries are not walls built out of anger. They are doors placed with intention. They allow in what nourishes you and gently keep out what diminishes you. They are not acts of rebellion. They are acts of remembrance, remembering that your time is precious, your energy is limited, and your destiny requires protection. When you begin to honor your limits, something remarkable happens. The world may resist at first. People who benefited from your constant availability may question you. They may call you changed, and they will be right. You have changed. You have decided that your life is not a public resource. You have realized that being constantly accessible does not make you valuable. It often makes you overlooked. But when you guard your time with intention, your presence becomes meaningful. It becomes deliberate. It becomes powerful. Self-love is not always soft and gentle. Sometimes it is firm. Sometimes it stands tall and says, "This is as far as you may go." Sometimes it chooses rest over obligation. Sometimes it chooses silence over explanation. You do not owe everyone access to you. You do not owe everyone your emotional labor. You do not owe everyone your immediate response. What you owe yourself is alignment. Alignment with your purpose, your well-being, and your future. Every great dream requires focus. Every strong soul requires space to breathe. When you protect your energy, you are protecting your ability to create, to grow, to rise. Saying no is not rejection. It is redirection. It is choosing what truly deserves your attention. It is understanding that your destiny cannot flourish in soil that is constantly trampled by unnecessary demands. So stand in your truth without apology. Let your boundaries speak before your exhaustion does. Let your peace become more important than pleasing everyone around you. Because when you begin to love yourself enough to set limits, you teach the world how to love you too. And in that sacred shift, you do not become distant. You become valuable. Every day, in ways both loud and quiet, you are teaching people how to treat you, not with lectures, not with demands, but with your tolerance, with your silence, with what you allow to pass without correction. The world studies your responses. It watches what you laugh off, what you excuse, what you endure, and from those moments, it draws a conclusion about your worth. If you accept crumbs, do not be surprised when you are fed leftovers. If you answer disrespect with nervous laughter, do not be shocked when it returns wearing heavier boots. People may test you once, perhaps twice, but it is your reaction that writes the rule book. When you remain where you are diminished, when you stay where you are unseen, you silently announce, "This is enough for me." And life, in its strange obedience, will agree. But there is another way to live, a way that does not require anger, but clarity, a way that does not shout, but stands steady. When you decide that your voice deserves to be heard, you begin to speak differently. When you decide that your time is sacred, you begin to guard it differently. When you understand that your heart is not a waiting room for indecision, you begin to require certainty. And suddenly, the same world that once handled you casually begins to handle you with care. Standards are not arrogance, they are alignment. They are the quiet declaration that you recognize your own value. You do not have to announce them in every room you enter. You live them, you demonstrate them, you embody them. The way you carry yourself, the way you respond to delay, to disappointment, to disrespect, all of it sends a message. And when your message is consistent, people learn. There will be moments when holding your standard feels lonely, when walking away feels harder than staying, when correcting someone feels uncomfortable. But discomfort is often the birthplace of dignity. You are not responsible for making others comfortable at the cost of your own self-respect. You are responsible for honoring who you are becoming. And understand this, when you raise your standards, some will fall away. Not because you are wrong, but because they were only comfortable with the version of you that required less. Let them go. What leaves when you demand respect was never meant to remain in your life long term. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate, by what you celebrate, and by what you refuse to entertain. When you begin to value yourself deeply, consistently, unapologetically, the world adjusts. It may take time, it may take courage, but it will adjust. Because when you know who you are, you no longer beg to be chosen. You choose yourself first. And that choice, made again and again, becomes the lesson everyone around you cannot ignore. There is a quiet danger in always being within reach, in answering every call before it finishes ringing, in replying to every message before your own thoughts have settled, in rearranging your life at the slightest request. It may look like generosity, it may feel like loyalty, but when availability has no purpose, no intention, no boundary, it slowly reshapes how others see you. What was once appreciated becomes expected. What was once admired becomes assumed. When you are always accessible, you unintentionally remove the weight of your presence. People stop planning for you because they assume you will adjust. They stop valuing your time because you have shown them it costs nothing. You become the backup plan, the open slot, the safe option that requires no effort to secure. Not because you lack worth, but because you have made your worth too easy to access. There is a difference between being dependable and being constantly available. Dependability is rooted in strength and principle. It says, "You can trust my word." Constant availability, without purpose, whispers, "I will bend whenever necessary." And bending too often teaches others that your life can be rearranged without consequence. Purposeful presence carries weight. When you choose when to show up and when to step back, your presence becomes intentional. It becomes something that is offered, not assumed. Scarcity is not cruelty, it is clarity. It reminds others that your time is not empty space waiting to be filled. It is a valuable resource allocated with care. Understand this, when people have unlimited access to you, they rarely pause to appreciate you. Familiarity without boundaries breeds carelessness. But when access requires consideration, respect begins to grow. Not out of fear, but out of awareness. Awareness that you are not simply there to accommodate, but to contribute meaningfully. This does not mean withdrawing love. It does not mean becoming distant or cold. It means aligning your availability with your values. It means asking yourself, is this worthy of my energy? Is this aligned with my direction? It means recognizing that every yes carries a cost. And if you never measure the cost, you may wake up one day depleted, wondering why you feel invisible. When you shift from being endlessly reachable to being intentionally present, something changes. Conversations deepen, invitations become thoughtful, your absence is noticed, and your presence becomes appreciated. Because what is chosen carefully is honored differently than what is given freely without limit. You are not here to be convenient. You are here to be impactful. And impact requires discernment. It requires you to protect your focus, your growth, your peace. When you decide that your time must align with your purpose, you stop being an option on someone's list and start becoming a priority in your own life. And that shift from constant availability to intentional value is where respect quietly begins to take root. There is a kind of strength that does not announce itself. It does not enter the room seeking applause. It does not measure its worth by the volume of approval it receives. It moves quietly, steadily, building itself brick by brick while the world is distracted by noise. Real value is not loud. It does not beg to be seen. It is formed in the unseen hours, in the discipline no one claps for, in the choices no one witnesses. We live in a time where attention is mistaken for importance, where visibility is confused with value, where the loudest voice is often assumed to be the strongest. But attention is temporary, it flickers, it shifts, it belongs to trends and moments. Value, on the other hand, is enduring. It is carved out of consistency. It is shaped by character. It is strengthened by the promises you keep to yourself when no one is watching. There is something sacred about working in silence, about improving your mind without announcing it, about healing your heart without broadcasting it, about building your dreams quietly, patiently, faithfully. Silence allows you to grow roots before you stretch your branches. And anything with deep roots does not fall easily when the winds of criticism or doubt begin to blow. When you chase validation, you hand your worth to strangers. You allow their praise to lift you and their silence to break you. You begin performing instead of becoming. You begin shaping yourself to fit expectations rather than honoring your own evolution. But when you turn inward and commit to growth for your own sake, something shifts. You stop asking, "Do they see me?" and start asking, "Am I becoming who I am meant to be?" Discipline is not glamorous. Self-respect is not always celebrated. Inner development is often lonely. There are days when no one notices your effort, no one acknowledges your restraint, no one applauds your progress. But those are the days that define you. Those are the days when character is formed, and character, not popularity, is what sustains true influence. You do not need to announce your worth for it to exist. You do not need to display every achievement for it to matter. Let your results speak. Let your consistency speak. Let your peace speak. The world may overlook you at first. It may underestimate you. But quiet strength has a way of revealing itself in time. When your value is built in silence, it is unshakable. It does not depend on compliments. It does not crumble under criticism. It stands firm because it was crafted from within. And when you finally step forward, you do not step forward hungry for approval. You step forward whole. So resist the urge to perform for attention. Invest instead in your growth. Protect your focus. Nurture your mind. Strengthen your spirit. Because the most powerful transformation happens away from the spotlight. And when your value is rooted in who you are, not in who applauds you, no one can take it from you. Your time is not a small thing. It is not a loose coin in your pocket to be handed out without thought. It is your life in motion. Every hour that passes carries a piece of your breath, your strength, your becoming. When you give your time away carelessly, you are not just filling a schedule, you are surrendering moments you will never meet again. We speak of time as if it is endless. I'll do it later. There will be another chance. But later is not promised, and chances are not guaranteed. The minutes you spend in places that shrink you, in conversations that drain you, in commitments that do not align with your purpose, those minutes are fragments of your existence. Once they are gone, they do not circle back. They do not knock on your door asking for a second chance to be used wisely. When you begin to understand that time is life itself, your decisions change. You no longer attend everything simply because you were invited. You no longer engage in every debate simply because you were challenged. You no longer pour yourself into spaces that give nothing in return. You grow selective, not out of pride, but out of awareness. There is a quiet tragedy in living as though your days are disposable, in waking up without intention, in drifting through hours without asking whether they are building or breaking you. Your dreams require time. Your healing requires time. Your growth demands time. And if you scatter it carelessly, you may find yourself with desire, but no discipline, vision, but no progress. Protecting your time is an act of self-respect. It means understanding that rest is not laziness, that focus is not selfishness, that stepping away from what wastes you is not arrogance, it is wisdom. When you value your hours, you begin to ask deeper questions. Does this align with who I am becoming? Does this contribute to my peace? Does this nourish my purpose? Not everyone deserves access to your calendar. Not every request deserves your energy. You are allowed to choose what receives your attention. You are allowed to prioritize your own becoming. Because when you say yes to everything, you dilute your impact. But when you invest your time intentionally, you deepen it. Imagine what your life could become if every day was treated as sacred, if every hour was directed towards something meaningful, if every commitment reflected your values. That is how legacies are built, not in grand gestures, but in daily decisions about where your time will go. Your time is your breath stretched across years. It is your story unfolding moment by moment. Guard it, honor it, spend it where it grows you, where it challenges you, where it aligns with the life you wish to create. Because in the end, you will not be measured by how available you were, but by how wisely you used the days you were given. There is a reason the rarest diamond is guarded, the rarest art is protected, the rarest voice is remembered. Rarity creates reverence. What is always present is often overlooked, but what is intentional, measured, and selective carries weight. When something is constantly available, it blends into the background of our lives, but when it appears with purpose, it commands attention. The same truth applies to you. If your presence is everywhere, at every moment, in every situation, it becomes ordinary in the eyes of others. Not because you are ordinary, but because familiarity without intention dulls appreciation. When people are certain they can access you anytime without effort or consideration, they slowly stop valuing the access. It becomes routine, it becomes expected, and what is expected is rarely cherished. Scarcity is not about playing games. It is not about manipulation or withdrawal for control. It is about understanding the power of measured presence. It is about choosing when to speak instead of reacting to every noise. It is about showing up where you are aligned, not merely where you are invited. It is about allowing your absence to create space for reflection and respect. Think about the people whose presence changes a room. They are not always the loudest. They are not always the most visible. But when they speak, others listen. When they arrive, others notice. Why? Because they do not scatter themselves carelessly. Their energy is focused. Their time is deliberate. Their presence is a gift, not a guarantee. When you begin to limit your availability to what truly matters, your significance rises naturally. People prepare differently for someone who is selective. They plan more thoughtfully, they listen more carefully, they appreciate more deeply. Your boundaries create value around your time, your voice, your contribution. And there is something even more important. You begin to respect yourself more. When you stop overextending, you conserve your strength. When you stop attending everything, you preserve your clarity. When you stop responding to every demand, you strengthen your focus. Your energy is no longer diluted across countless directions. It becomes concentrated, powerful, impactful. You do not need to disappear from the world to be significant. You simply need to be intentional. Let your yes mean something. Let your presence carry purpose. Let your words be chosen, not spilled. The world may initially resist when you are no longer endlessly accessible. But in time, it will adjust. And when it does, it will meet you differently. What is rare is respected because it requires awareness. It requires appreciation. When you honor your own value enough to be selective, you teach others to honor it too. Your presence becomes something people look forward to, not something they assume. And in that shift, you are no longer just there. You are felt, you are remembered, you are significant. There is a quiet law woven into the fabric of human connection. The world responds to the way you respond to yourself. Long before anyone decides how to treat you, you have already made that decision in the privacy of your own mind. The tone you use when you speak about yourself, the standards you enforce, the behavior you excuse, all of it sends a message. And that message echoes outward. If you constantly doubt your worth, others will sense it. If you laugh at insults directed at you, others will grow comfortable delivering them. If you shrink to make others feel taller, they may begin to expect your smallness, not always out of cruelty, but out of pattern. People often follow the example you set about your own value. Self-respect is not loud. It does not boast. It does not demand applause. It is steady. It is calm. It is the way you correct someone when they cross a line. It is the way you walk away from what diminishes you. It is the way you refuse to participate in your own belittlement. It is choosing not to beg for spaces where you are barely tolerated. It is understanding that your dignity is not up for negotiation. When you hold yourself in high regard, your posture changes. Your decisions change. Your tolerance changes. You begin to ask for clarity instead of accepting confusion. You begin to expect consistency instead of excusing chaos. You begin to choose environments that nourish you instead of enduring those that exhaust you. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, people begin to respond differently. This does not mean everyone will applaud your growth. Some will resist it. Some will prefer the version of you that required less accountability from them. But that resistance is not a sign to retreat. It is proof that the standard has shifted. And when the standard shifts, the reflection shifts with it. The world mirrors what you believe you deserve. If you believe you deserve respect, you will act in alignment with that belief. You will speak with intention. You will listen without fear. You will disengage without drama. And over time, those who cannot meet your standard will remove themselves, while those who can will rise to meet it. Self-respect is a daily practice. It is in the promises you keep to yourself. It is in the boundaries you maintain even when they are inconvenient. It is in the courage to say, "This is not acceptable," without apology. And as you practice it, you begin to see something remarkable. The same world that once treated you casually begins to treat you carefully, because when you honor yourself deeply and consistently, you make it clear that anything less than respect will not be entertained. And the world, in its quiet observation, learns to mirror the standard you refuse to lower. There comes a defining moment in a person's life when the hunger for approval begins to lose its grip. A moment when applause no longer tastes as sweet as self-respect. A moment when you look at yourself, not through the eyes of others, not through their praise or their rejection, but through the steady gaze of your own understanding. And in that moment, something settles within you. You realize you have been negotiating a price for something that was never meant to be sold. For too long, many of us bargain with our worth. We lower our standards to stay chosen. We over-explain to stay accepted. We overgive to stay needed. We twist ourselves into smaller shapes so we can fit into spaces that were never designed for our fullness. We treat our value like a marketplace item, adjusting it according to who is standing in front of us. But worth is not a negotiation. It is a knowing. When you truly know your worth, you stop arguing your case. You stop trying to convince people of your importance. You stop performing for validation, not because you have become indifferent, but because you have become anchored. Approval becomes pleasant, but not necessary. Rejection becomes painful, but not defining. You understand that someone's inability to see your value does not reduce it. There is a quiet power in no longer needing to be chosen, in choosing yourself first, in walking away from tables where your presence is tolerated but not celebrated, in declining offers that come wrapped in half-hearted respect. This is not pride. It is alignment. It is the recognition that your spirit deserves environments where it can stand tall without apology. Knowing your worth changes your posture in life. You ask for what you deserve without trembling. You decline what dishonors you without guilt. You no longer cling to relationships that require you to beg for basic decency. You no longer chase opportunities that require you to compromise your integrity. You understand that what is meant for you will not require you to shrink to receive it. The greatest shift is internal. It is the movement from please see me to I see myself, from choose me to I choose me, from am I enough to I am. And once that shift happens, everything changes. Your decisions become clearer, your boundaries become firmer, your peace becomes non-negotiable. You do not have to announce your worth to the world. You simply live in a way that reflects it, and those who recognize it will meet you at that level. Those who do not will fall away. Either way, you remain steady, because when you know your worth deeply and without doubt, you stop negotiating it for comfort, for company, or for applause. You stand in it, and that stance alone changes everything.